Hey, this is Noah. I'm Thomas's brother from Colorado, and today on Ferris Farm and Organic, we're combining some corn and then switching over to soybeans as soon as the dew wears off. As you can see, I'm in the X9 1000, and then we got Raphael from Switzerland over in the 780. We got Gabriel from Guatemala in one of the grain carts, and then Sam from Iowa in a grain cart. So we're a pretty diverse group here from all around the world. So we're gonna combine corn here for about another hour and a half and then switch over to some soybeans. So right now I'm just working back and forth in the field, going this way and that way, and we have Raphael taking headlands off. And the reason we're doing that is because in the X9 I can get more acres per hour, so it's less turning if I just do the main part. And then Raphael running the 780, that's a little less productive, can do all the turning. That way we're maximizing how many acres we can get combined in an hour, because they have a lot of corn left to combine, and I'm going back to Colorado, so I want to help them get as much done as I can before I leave. And Gabriel's right on time, so I can dump off on him, and we're using machine sync through John Deere. So as soon as he pulls up next to the combine here, the combine takes over his speed, so I can start dumping and go the same speed the whole time and just move him back and forth, changing his speed to get positioned into the right spot. That way when I'm dumping, I can fill the grain cart up front to back. Like I said before, we're going to combine corn here for about another hour and a half and then switch over to soybeans. But the corn is getting pretty dry, and we like to take it out when it's about 24 to about 24%. That way when the head brings the cob down onto the head, it doesn't explode and all the kernels kind of go everywhere. You lose, a few bushels there. You call it head loss. But right now this corn's at 20%, so it's a little on the dry side, but I slowed my head speed down. That way it's not pulling it through quite as fast, eliminating a lot of that head loss. This will probably sound a little bit silly to people who are not farmers and do not use GPS, but right now you can see all the corn kind of goes in this way. So if you're off 1 inch, it will do that. So if I bump 1 inch to the left here, well, maybe 2 or 3, but if you line it up straight, then the corn falls down perfectly like this instead of at an angle. But it's just one of those things that if you're not a farmer or do it every day in the fall, it doesn't bother you as much. The other thing I will say, and the machine sync helps fix the problem, is when the grain cart pulls up beside you, and if I'm combining at 4.5 miles an hour and he's going 4.7 miles an hour, it'll seem like he's going a lot faster than you when it's really maybe only 0.2 miles an hour, but it's a big difference. So I always kind of laugh a little bit when I go, hey, slow down to 4.5 instead of 4.7. It kind of sounds silly, but I'm telling you, if you come and sit in a combine and deal with it all day, it gets super annoying. So that's one nice thing about the machine sync. It eliminates that problem and they go the exact same speed as you. And while I'm talking about things in farming that can be a little bit aggravating or a little annoying, is if you're farming a field like in Iowa here, all the borders aren't necessarily a straight north and south or east and west. So you have to build GPS lines to follow along that border, and all of them are a little bit different. So if you start going down one and you have the wrong line, it might only be off 1 inch every 50 feet, but it will be off and you have to sit there and bump over 1 inch every time. And it would just make so much sense if they were all straight north and south and east and west. But turns out when our government made the roads, nothing was straight. So now all the farmers have to deal with that, along with fence lines. Most of them are not straight. So in a square field, you might end up having 2 different end rows and 2 different north-south lines, which just makes for a lot more work and a little bit annoying. Well, we got a row not sucking the corn in good, so we'll stop here. We'll see it just kind of pushes it. You see in front of the head there, so we'll jump out here and see what we got going on. Maybe I have to call Charlie. I'm not a mechanic by any means, but you know, just eye looking here, I don't necessarily see anything that's wrong. So maybe we'll jump back in the combine here and see if we can open our deck plates up and see if it'll start taking it in better. Get it started up here, see if it'll take the corn in a little better. There we go. Sometimes all it needs is a little words of encouragement to work. The other thing that seems to work a lot with farm equipment is turn it off, wait 30 seconds, and turn it back on. And for me anyway, that fixes about half the problems. The other half of the times it doesn't work. That machine sync is pretty awesome though. Believe it or not, my brothers were a little bit skeptical about it. We were using it in Colorado, and my uncle and I told them, you guys should be using that machine sync. And they said, it just doesn't work as good with 2 combines in a field and 2 grain cart drivers. So when I came back, I told them part of my deal coming back is that we have to run the machine sync for at least a day. And if it doesn't work, we will never ask you to try it again. So we did that, and now we're on day 4, and we are still running the machine sync. I'm realizing that before, when I kind of tried to explain the machine sync, I didn't do a very good job, so now I'll show you a little better. So right now he's pulled up underneath me and he's connected to the combine. So I'm going 4.3. If I slow down, he slows down and matches my speed. If I speed up, it matches my speed again. And the other thing it does is if I'm unloading, so I'll just unload right now, you can see where it's positioned in the grain cart. Now if I push a button on my joystick here, it'll slow the grain cart down. I can push it again, it'll slow the grain cart down again, and then I can also speed the grain cart back up, all while going the same speed in the combine. It just changes the tractor speed to position the grain cart in the right spot. That way the combine driver doesn't have to change his speed, and then the grain cart driver also doesn't have to worry about changing his speed at all. In fact, he can sit in there on his phone doing things that you do on your phone. And I also don't know if when I'm talking and someone's on the two-way talking, if that messes with how you can hear me. Thomas tells me it does not affect if you can hear me, but I'm a little bit skeptical, so sorry in advance. Now I'm guessing some of you wonder, what does one do when one finds himself in a combine all day? Well, I would say about 50% of my time, I literally do not have any music, any radio playing, just silence, listening to the combine. And then I also listen to the Pat McAfee show. And then my wife made a playlist called Jesus Jams that fills the rest of my time. So between those 3 things, that's how I spend my time. Now other people might listen to the radio all day. Maybe they don't listen to anything. Maybe they fill it with podcasts, whatever. But how I spend my time is split between those 3 things. I have it silent a lot because there is quite a bit to watch when running the combine. So I like to just have no background music, you know, just listening, and you can kind of listen to the combine itself and hear different things. If something doesn't sound right, something's probably not right. And then, like I was saying, just watching the different things on the screens, the yield, moistures, grain loss, detailing sensors. It just takes quite a bit of brain power, so I don't really like to be thinking about other things. right, here is the last pass of the day here for corn. Then we're gonna go clean the combines out, unhook the corn heads, and get hooked onto some bean heads and start combining beans. And hopefully, if we go through the night, we should be done sometime tomorrow around 6 p.m. with the soybeans for the 2023 harvest year. So we'll see you then. Well, we got the combines set, and we are currently going across the field here in the soybeans. I believe this is a 45-foot, yes it is, a 45-foot draper head, and we're going just about 5 miles an hour here, so we can knock some acres out an hour. So if we keep going, no breakdowns, we should have a pretty good day here. When we get to the end here, we'll jump out and we'll check and see what kind of a job the combine's doing, make sure we're not leaving too much on the ground, and if everything looks good, we'll just keep going back and forth until it gets too wet. Just got to the end here, so we're going to jump out and we'll check the ground and see what kind of a job we're doing here. So we'll look down here, kind of look in the ground, see if we see any beans or pods that didn't get broke. So got one, but this is the whole plant. So anything that runs through the combine, so I want to make sure there's nothing left in there. And it honestly, you know, looks pretty good. We got a half a bean right there, but I think it looks good right now, so we're going to keep rolling with it. And you got behind me, there's Sam from Iowa. Not really doing a whole lot. In soybeans, you don't get as many bushel per acre, so so let's use, in corn you might get 200 bushel an acre, in soybeans you might get 60. So it takes that much longer to get a full combine load, so you don't have to dump on the grain carts quite as much. Well, we're going to take these end rows off here. You can see our turning marks there, and then the rest of the field that way. But I'm going to knock these out with the X9, and then Jack will just start going back and forth with the 780. And we'll get as many soybeans knocked out here as we can. And with combining soybeans, you kind of got to watch the same settings and sensors as you do in corn. And kind of the same deal with the head. You want to make sure all the rows are feeding in. So what will happen is the sickle on the head is riding right on top of the dirt. I don't know how well you can see that. But if you get too low in the dirt, or if it hits a pile of dirt, it'll start pushing, and then it won't bring that row of beans into the head. So that's really what you're watching for the most in soybeans, is making sure that the sickle is riding as close to the ground or on the ground. That way you're getting the full crop into the combine and also not rubbing in the dirt. In corn, you don't really watch for the head hitting into the dirt because you're up off the ground, because the ear of corn is, 3 to 4 feet off the ground, and on soybeans it's the full plant all the way to the ground, so you have to bring the whole thing in instead of just one ear, right? I don't know how many pods are on a beanstalk. Someone could probably tell you, and that changes with your yield as well. But the important thing is you have to bring the whole plant into the combine, not just the ear. I know. We got the head adjusted and calibrated right, so now it's just floating right across the ground. We adjusted our tilt on the throat a little bit, that way the sickles kind of aim up instead of into the dirt. And now we're, it's going pretty good. The ground's a little soft yet. We had a couple of rain a few days ago, but every hour it gets a little bit better when the sun's drying out the ground. So now it's working pretty good here. Raphael's taking a little strip there, and not many acres left here, and then we'll get moved over to the other field here. Well, we got Raphael from Switzerland right there in the combine, and Sam from Iowa. Got Hans from Mexico pulling in the field with a semi, and Gabriel from Guatemala gonna dump on it. So like I said before, we have people from all around the world here, all working towards one goal: getting the soybeans combine before it rains again. and I think we're going to get it done. Right now we're getting about 45 to 50 acres an hour between the two combines, and as long as the ground stays dry and the beans don't get too tough here when the dew sets in, we should be able to go all night and should get done tomorrow around 6 p.m. Alrighty, it's about 8 o'clock here. It's getting a little tougher out and the ground's definitely getting wet. So this is probably the last video I'll make, but it was nice doing it. It's the first time I've made videos for YouTube, and hopefully you can follow it, what I was saying a little bit, and I don't sound like a big doofus. But it was nice doing it, and hopefully Thomas keeps making good content for you.